showing a Zoom feed is
Okay, on YouTube? Perfect.
it's on Zoom. Let me check. Okay.
Okay. Hi.
Can we play this meeting on like 3 times speed before anybody talks
It's
next
fine.
time?
Megan said she's planning on it. She's like, I talk fast. Apparently not. Long line though so far, and yesterday there was 23, so we're doing good.
All right. Well, I guess by far the most controversial stuff was yesterday.
Yes.
I don't know why we can't just sneak the junior stuff in. It's doing good things.
Yeah. I've heard some good things.
Yeah. They say, don't fix something that ain't broke.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. I like seeing once the yellows are gone, it feels good. Whoops. And then they convinced Sean too. Sean was going to his room too. I was like, why would you record that? I'll show you.
I don't, must not be. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna wait and now. Yep. Are we good to get going? Kaylee? All right. I've got 8:30, so with that, I'm gonna call to order the meeting of the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners for Saturday, March 9th, 2024. And I'm gonna ask Commissioner McNinch to lead us in the pledge. Thank you. I'd ask the department to take the roll.
Chairman Caviglia,
Here.
Vice Chair Rogers,
Here.
Commissioner Barnes, Commissioner Booth, Commissioner Keel, Commissioner McNinch, Commissioner Walther, Commissioner Wise, Commissioner Young.
Thank you. I'd ask the cab members in attendance to please announce themselves. All right, any cab members on Zoom?
Yes.
Kobe, go ahead.
Kobe Rowe, Washoe Cab.
Steve Robinson, Washoe Cab. Steve Robinson, Washoe Cab.
Gotcha.
Jim Cooney, Elko Cab.
Paul Howell, Douglas Cab.
Ryan Brown, Washoe Cab.
Jim Cooney, Elko Cab.
Gotcha, Jim. Got him. All right. That will go to agenda item number 13, public comment period. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. No action can be taken by the commission at this time. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Persons making comment are asked to begin by stating their name for the record. So any public comment in Las Vegas? Seeing none, any public comment on Zoom?
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, if you could unmute yourself and then go ahead, please.
Yes, this is Larry Johnson, President, Coalition for Nevada's Wildlife. I have 3 quick issues. First, there was a presentation from the TAG subcommittee discussion of potential limiting bighorn sheep tags to once in a lifetime, while we feel species such as moose, Rocky Mountain goat, and possibly Rocky Mountain bighorn, that discussion should be had, or we're opposed to limiting once in a lifetime consideration to either California bighorn sheep or desert bighorn sheep. Second item, we really encourage the commission to sign on to the Coalition for Healthy Nevada Lands correspondence to BLM urging proper wild horse management. Third item is we oppose any elimination of wildlife contests. We were very active in the last legislature, killing the bill that proposed to end coyote culling contests. While I personally don't take part in wildlife contests, I don't believe that we should restrict any legitimate sportsman's desired pastime in these arenas. That is all of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Any additional public comment on Zoom? No. All right, with that, we'll go to agenda item number 14, approval of the agenda for possible action. The commission will review the agenda and may take action to approve the agenda. for March 9th, 2024. The commission may remove items from the agenda, continue items for consideration, or take items out of order. Commission questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, any cab comment in Las Vegas on the agenda? Seeing none, any cab comment on Zoom? Seeing none, any public comment on the agenda? Seeing none, any public comment on Zoom? No. All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With that, I will go ahead and make a motion for approval of today's minutes for Saturday, March 9, 2024, as presented.
I'll second.
And I believe you mean today's agenda.
What did I say?
Minutes.
I don't know what the deal is with me and agenda and minutes. I bet if you look back on the record, I bet I've done that 3 or 4 times. So I do apologize. Let me amend that. I'd like to make a motion for approval of today's agenda for Saturday, March 9, 2024, as presented.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent. All right, agenda item number 15, members' items, announcements, and correspondence, informational. Commissioners may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. The commission will review and may discuss correspondence sent or received by the commission since the last regular meeting and may provide copies for the exhibit file. Commissioners may provide hard copies of their correspondence for the written record. Correspondence sent or received by Secretary Janae may also be discussed. And I don't have anything additional. I think we got some additional comments on the horse item we talked about yesterday, but that's all I had.
Yes, and I saw some other letters that came in first thing yesterday morning, but they were both those same agenda items and nothing since 7 a.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Nothing else, we'll move on. So agenda item number 16, county advisory boards to manage wildlife. Informational member items. CAB members may present emergent items. No action may be taken by the commission. Any item requiring commission action will be scheduled on a future commission agenda. So any CAB items in Las Vegas? No. Any CAB items on Zoom?
Go ahead, Mr. Cooney.
Good morning, commissioners. For the record, Jim Cooney, Elko. I've got a couple of items that I wanted to bring forth. First, and probably the most important, is there was a gray wolf sighting here in Elko County on February 24th. And it was brought up during our CAB meeting, asking the department what the plan would be. As I looked through information, it looked like policy 27 addresses some of the wolf issue. The commission had passed that policy, or it had been amended in 2022. There is a concern. There have been reported sightings. I think this one has been documented. The department has met with the individuals, and there is a photo out there. I think as sportsmen, we need to be extremely vigilant to watch and see exactly what happens with this. I know that we've got the feds are involved with some of this, but I'd like to see some work going forward for a management plan regarding wolves in that particular area, especially with the herd dynamics that we've got going. So I want to bring that to the commission's attention. Secondly, we want to encourage the commission to pursue and to get the report cards, the hunter questionnaires turned in 14 days from the end of the season rather than waiting until January to get the results. It makes it difficult when we're making recommendations as a CAB for seasons when we don't have the harvest information in there. I think that it would behoove everyone, biologists, CABs, and the commission to have that information earlier rather than later. I'd also like to commend Staff Specialist Cody Schroeder for his presentation yesterday with regards to how the quotas were established. So thank you. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. Any additional CAB comment on Zoom? All right, with that, we will move to agenda item number 17, Heritage Account Principal Project Proposal, Habitat Administrator Mark Fries, informational. The commission will hear the South Shell Land Acquisition Heritage Account Principal Project Proposal. The department is seeking Heritage Account Principal Project funding to acquire 1,720 acres of wildlife habitat in the Shell Creek Range near Ely, Nevada. The department will seek a final decision in May.
Good morning, Chair Cavilla. Is this on? Good morning, Chair Cavilla, fellow commissioners, Mark Fries, Habitat Division Administrator. So we wanted to give this full commission an update on a potential project, principal project that will be coming through the Heritage Committee. We had a great discussion yesterday with the Heritage Committee, and it is an informational item today, and it will probably be for possible action on the next commission agenda. So this is a principal project for an acquisition in the South Shell outside of Ely. You can see the map on the screen shows you the red parcels, those parcels that we're looking to acquire. We did get approached by a private landowner there to acquire 1,720 acres. It is elk habitat, mule deer habitat, upland game bird habitat, important wildlife habitat values associated with this part of the world. And so we're looking to acquire that, secure that, protect it for wildlife into the future. And so the ask is for $750,000 of heritage. There's various other matching sources. The total acquisition cost is close to $1.3 million. We'll bring this forward, like I said, through the Heritage Committee at the May meeting and the Commission. We're hoping to secure this acquisition by the end of our fiscal year, so in June is our target date. We do have until August to get this done. So we're seeking your support on this acquisition, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mark? Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious then, Mr. Fries, I see on this map the Blue Diamond properties and its close proximity to those. Just curious, what is the plan if this acquisition goes through? What is the plan with those parcels? Is it kind of folded in with the Blue Diamond properties and the plan that is being worked on for those properties? Just curious what the thought process is going forward if in fact this funding goes through.
Good question, Chairman Rogers. Mark Fries, Habitat Division Administrator. Yeah, that is our intent, is to kind of treat it the same as the Blue Diamond properties, and you can see the proximity, but absorb that into the Steptoe Wildlife Management Area and manage it as a mountain property. And we'll get into more of the mountain versus meadow properties here in just a little bit when we go over the WMA regulations.
And Mark, I guess just to clarify, and I was on the TAC yesterday, and we had a ton of questions for you, but the department will acquire the surface water rights with this purchase as well?
That's correct. There are 13 or 14 surface water rights that will come with the property.
Okay. Any additional questions or comments for Mark? I guess that's it.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move to agenda item number 18, Commission General Regulations Workshop Public Comment Allowed for possible action. 18A, Commission General Regulation 520, Tag Deferral, Extenuating Circumstances Revision, Management Analysis, Megan Manfredi. The Commission will hold a workshop to consider amending Chapter 502 of the Nevada Administrative Code to amend the circumstances surrounding tag deferrals.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Commission, Management Analyst Megan Manfredi. For the record, I'm here today with a regulation change that would amend the deferral portion of the extenuating circumstance regulation. And so I would like to start with a bit of history regarding the regulation. Commission General Regulation 485 was brought to the Commission beginning in September of 2019 with authority granted from Assembly Bill 404 of the 80th Legislative Session. This authority of the bill allowed the Commission to adopt a program that would allow the transfer or deferral of a big game tag based on certain extenuating circumstances that prevented the tag holder from hunting during the tag season. The Nevada Administrative Code 502 has yet to be codified in LCB, and so I do have a QR code that goes to the language that was adopted by the Commission, if anybody is interested. So this regulation was a hot topic and took 5 Commission meetings before it was adopted by the Commission. Many of the Commission members or commissioners served on that board at that time and participated in the discussions on the benefits and concerns related to the program. When this language was passed, the time frame of which an extenuating circumstance could happen was a very small window of time. It was from the close of NDOW's business hours up until hunting hours on the opening day of the tag season. So this window ranged from about 15 to 72 hours, depending on weekends and holidays. And so fast forward to 2021, and the 81st legislative session approved Assembly Bill 89, which gave authority to the Commission to adopt a regulation establishing a program that would allow the tag holder to transfer the big game tag to a nonprofit organization who would facilitate the tag going to an impoverished youth or an individual with a disability or life-threatening medical condition. The regulation was amended and added to the one before it, being discussed at 2 TAC meetings and 2 Commission meetings before adoption. And again, a QR code if anybody wants to see that regulation. So in June of 2022, due to an extenuating circumstance that happened to a member of the public that did not allow for qualification in the deferral program based on the circumstance not falling within that small time frame, the department proposed to the Commission removal of the time frame. So caution was warned by our Deputy Attorney General Burkett and members of the Commission, but the change was adopted and is currently what we have in place for participation in the deferral program. So that time frame is now from when a tag is awarded up until the opening day of the hunt season. Now this can range from 1 day, depending on if the tag was purchased first come, first serve, or roughly 8 months if it was awarded in the main draw and it's a late season with the January, February hunts. So since that time frame change took effect, the numbers of requests for deferrals have increased to a number of concern for the department. Not only are overall quotas decreasing, but deferral numbers are increasing to the point where the department staff is strained to keep up. So due to the number of deferrals, the department is no longer able to allocate or accommodate the deferred tags. So there's a large difference between 3 tags and 122 tags being accommodated in the quota proposals that we see in May. And so I'm showing base numbers here, but the department does plan on having details on the deferred hunts provided to the public and Commission members during our May Commission meeting as we do establish quotas. But I will note that per standard operating procedures, deferred numbers are included in the approved quotas set by the Commission, but are not allocated through the main draw. And so this is an important note for anybody trying to calculate their draw odds, as some of the quota they're looking at may already be spoken for through a deferral. And so the department has estimated the time it takes to process a customer's deferral request from receipt of paperwork to the payment of the tag fee to about 3 hours worth of work per request. So 3 hours times 122 requests equals 366 hours, which equals roughly 9.15 weeks of administrative work to process the number of deferrals that were approved this past year. So I will note that this number does not include deferral requests that were denied but still needed staff time to review. nor does it include time spent by staff to meet on the difficulties of the program or present the items to the tag allocation and application hunt committee. And so you might be asking why it would take so long. And I'm going to make a joke here about adding a picture of Deputy Director Scott to my presentation, because this was the face he made regularly as we brought him deferral paperwork throughout the season. But many of the requests require staff to be subjective when reviewing the medical documents submitted by customers. So our department might have many biologists, but we are not specialized with human medical backgrounds, which causes staff to take extra time to understand a medical situation before we can determine if the scenario qualifies. Vetting doctors has also become an issue. An example that happened this past year was that a chiropractor signed a deferral note for a client whose circumstance was a heart condition. There are also instances where we need to determine if the actual condition occurred after the tags were awarded. Is the medical condition a chronic issue? Is the customer in remission? Is it a known issue that's experienced a flare-up? Is the deferral request connected to a new diagnosis? Was the surgery known or planned or an emergency one? What is enough time to heal for something such as a knee replacement surgery? So an example received last year was a deferral request for a November season on a knee replacement surgery that was scheduled in June. A similar request came through with the death of a family member. So what is enough time to grieve and settle end-of-life arrangements if the death happened in May and the deferral request for the tag was a November season? So people grieve differently. As the department, should we even be asking those type of questions relating to the time of the circumstance to the time of the hunt season? So the extenuating circumstance regulation in LCB file number R022-19, section 2B, reads, the holder of the tag or the family member of the holder incurs a severe and unanticipated injury or illness, which prevents the holder from hunting during the season for which the tag was issued, as verified in writing by a physician. So this also presents a struggle for the department to determine if the actual tag holder is prevented from hunting based on the family member's injury or illness. So who are we to say that if the daughter's broken leg prevents the father from going out and actually participating in the hunt? And so there is a wide variety of reasons that have been submitted as deferral requests over this past year. Listed are a handful of them. Please note that they are all real reasons received for a deferral request this last season, which led the department to some long debates as to why something should or should not be approved. And here I will give a shout out to Dag Burkett, as he was included in many of those debates for needed guidance and assistance, so thank you. And I can also make a crude joke here about how this program might have given me high blood pressure last year. But we see something like that, and we see it as, you know, it's a fairly common condition, high blood pressure. It's regulated by medication. But in the circumstance of the customer, how do we know that it's one of those regular, you know, sustainable, manageable conditions, or is it life-threatening? Like, how are we to know that? Was it due to a chronic and previously known condition? And if so, should it then be denied because the origin of the condition was already known, but the high blood pressure is a result of the known and chronic condition? So included in the support materials is a draft version of our standard operating procedure. The department does have a signed SOP from our previous director, Tony Wasley. As we came across instances, we added to and amended the procedure. The work was done with the help of department staff, the Tag Allocation Application Hunt Committee, and Dag Burkett, resulting in the draft version included in the support materials. So if changes are approved, the department would like to have the chairman's signature as well as Director Janae's on that procedure. And I will like to note that this is not a commission policy, but a department procedure that has been reviewed and approved by the commission and the department. So with the help of the Tag Allocation and Application Hunt Committee, the department has proposed the regulation changes as found in the support materials. So adjusting the time frame of which an extenuating circumstance can occur in order to qualify for the deferral program will help the department staff better manage the administrative workload, as well as help us manage the deferrals compared to the proposed commission quotas. Included in the proposed changes are a handful of hunt-type exclusions. The alternate and first-come, first-served programs both saw a customer approved for a deferral. That same customer was either next in line for a different species in the alternate program or purchased a different species through first-come, first-serve and immediately turned around and requested an additional deferral from the department. And I do not believe that that was the original intent of this program. And so we don't want to allow a customer to have multiple opportunities to get multiple tags through different programs just to turn around and defer it. The non-resident guided hunt and draw only allows a guide business to have no more than 30 clients awarded per NAC 5024237. Deferrals are still defined as being awarded in a draw but offered the following year. So our AMS system cannot tailor the number of guides for an individual guide business. It functions where all guides are set to one number across the board, and so the department does not want to penalize multiple guide businesses with a lowered set cap number of clients because one guide business has multiple deferrals. So currently, if a guide has 29 clients and 2 deferrals, the department would have to run the draw, check the clients based on that 30 number cap. If somebody is over with deferrals, scrap the whole draw, rerun the draw, and repeat until we get everybody under that 30. And management, depredation, landowner damage compensation, antelope or mule deer, elk incentive, and emergency hunts are intended as a management tool to be used on herds in a quick and timely manner, the season that they are issued for. So most of these scenarios related to these hunt types, the department and the landowners don't really have the luxury to defer the tags to the next season. Like, it's something that, you know, intended to happen this season, the season that they are issued. And then specialty tags. So if a specialty tag is requested for deferral, it could result in 0 quota for the following year. Silver State and Heritage tags give us regulatory authority to over-allocate, as we do not currently use the combined maximum big game tag 15 cap for both programs as mandated in NRS 502250. So that will not be the case if the commission ever does decide to utilize all 15 in a general hunt year. But the PIW and Dream tags do not allow for that wiggle room, or give authority to over-allocate. Meaning if one is deferred, one is not offered to be sold the following year as the quota is already spoken for. So these 4 tags are specifically created as a fundraising tool, and a deferral here could result in hundreds and thousands of dollars not being raised for conservation in any given year. So what happens to the program if we make the proposed regulation change? So the military and disease tags are completely separate programs that offer a deferral option. So these programs are not changing and will continue to offer the deferral option through rules set in their own NAC regulations. A customer may return their tag for any reason for the restoration of their bonus points and waiting periods lifted so long as the return is received before opening day of the tag season. If the return is for medical, military, or death reasons, the customer will also receive a refund in their tag fee. So none of these options are changing. They will still be available to our customers moving forward. And so as an end note, I just wanted to thank the members of the Tag Allocation and Application Hunt Committee for their work on the proposed procedure and regulation, all of the department staff that took time to meet and debate some of these requests, Dag Raquette for his input and guidance, the commission for hearing this today, the public for helping either today or with the Tag Allocation Application Hunt Committee, most of all to Deputy Director Scott and our licensing staff who assists and runs this program. The licensing portion duty mainly falls on our program officer, Chrissy Rose, and she has been a trooper this past year in administering this program and is currently working or about to work on collecting the tag fees for the upcoming season on the deferrals. But with that, I will give the floor back to the commission and happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Megan. It's a lot. I don't have any questions, but just kind of a statement that you basically summarized it. Everything we talked about potentially gaming it and the pitfalls, it all ended up happening when we lightened up the requirements or opened up the door. And it's a real simple. I mean, we've added we've added the other tag alignments, but it's really a real simple change. It's just that one sentence. That one sentence has giant ramifications. So for me, I'm absolutely fine going back to that. I have no problem with it at all. So, additional questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner McNinch.
I wasn't going to say much today after I took the floor for all day yesterday. But yeah, talk about no good deed goes unpunished. And unfortunately, you guys were the ones punished. So I feel bad that, you know, I wasn't a better listener on this one. You know, I've been where you guys are at. I've worked for a public agency, and I know what it's like to get put in a position like that. And it's horrible. It's horrible. It's like an unfunded mandate. And, you know, you feel like you're spinning your wheels. And no, I don't think you should ever have to determine medical stuff. That's not what you guys are there for, and all the things that you had to deal with. So I appreciate you guys getting it out and getting this back to us. And if this is going to fix it from your perspective, I'm good with it too.
Additional commission. Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I know the answer to this because, again, I've sat in a lot of these meetings, but if in fact this is approved, this will take effect this year, correctly? I mean, this is just a policy, or not a policy change, but administrative. So, I mean, this will...
Management Analyst Meg Manfredi, for the record, that is the hope, but the regulation would still need to go to the Legislative Commission and be approved there before it would actually take effect, yes.
And today's just a workshop, so it would have to go to May to another, adoption. And I will say, like, shame on the commission too, after we had all those big discussions, and then we literally like took the wheels off fast. It was like we put all this work into it and then unwound it in like 2 meetings. It was, yeah, shame on us as well. But any additional commission questions or comments? All right, seeing none, any cab comment in Las Vegas?
Paul Dixon Clark. We 100% supported the change back to the way that it was for all the reasons that Megan mentioned. I did want to make one thing publicly clear that I learned talking to Chair Cavilla is that I know that when we talk about people that had deferrals, if you get a deferral in a unit and the following year that unit is closed, you don't get a continued deferral. You basically get your bonus points back. And I didn't know that and had changed in the rule, and I was educated, but I wanted to bring that up in public is for a lot of people, when you defer things, if you're in unit 171 and next year 171 gets closed, you basically just get your bonus points back. You don't get to keep deferring because once the unit's closed, you don't know when it'll reopen. And I didn't realize that was a fact because that wasn't a couple years ago the fact, but I hadn't followed closely that small change in the tax. So just wanted to bring that up as a public comment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any additional cab comment in Las Vegas? Okay, seeing none, any cab comment on Zoom? All right, any public comment in Las Vegas? Any public comment on Zoom? No. All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Keel.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. With that, I'll go ahead and move Commission General Regulation 520 tag deferral extenuating circumstances to a second workshop for future adoption at a later meeting.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent. Thank you, Megan. 18B, Commission General Regulation 521, Junior Tag Transfer Management Analyst Megan Manfredi. The Commission will hold a workshop to consider amending Chapter 502 of the Nevada Administrative Code to provide for the circumstances surrounding the transfer of a tag to a junior hunter.
Thank you again, Chairman, members of the Commission, Management Analyst Megan Manfredi. Again, here for the record, to introduce a proposed regulation that would establish a tag transfer program to junior hunters. So Senate Bill 311 passed through the 82nd legislative session in 2023. This bill gave the commission authority to establish a program that would allow the transfer of a big game tag to anybody under the age of 18. So when the bill was initially introduced to the legislature, it raised some concerns to the department related to a black market. So the bill was not even passed out of Nevada legislature before a thread on monster muleys was created centered around a person's interest in purchasing a bighorn sheep tag for their son. To be honest, seeing that this subject was the initial thought of some hunting members of the public put myself and some department staff on the defense around this. So the intent of the bill was not to create a black market from the program, but intended to get more minors hunting in Nevada. So the department asked itself a question: what do we do to prevent the black market from happening? So this bill was passed and authority granted to the commission, which was delegated to the Tag Allocation and Application Hunt Committee to discuss the program's creation. So initially, the department had a wide variety of concerns related to the establishment of the program. The first being the administrative burden on the department related to how many times the department would be required to touch and move around a tag before it is actually used in the field. So Senate Bill 311 was, while it was being discussed, the department submitted a fiscal impact of the program with the bill, and if the bill was to pass, that impact was to convert a part-time administrative assistant into a full-time position to assist with the program. The fiscal impact was stripped out of the bill before its passage, resulting in no additional staff support for the program. So these concerns riding on the coattails of the deferral program that we just talked about, which took about roughly 9 weeks of administrative work to process. But also included were concerns related to the black market, which I've already touched on a bit, but disadvantaged youth being overlooked from participation in the program, meaning if a hunting family has the means to apply with many family members, a single youth could benefit multiple times, while a youth with no hunting family would not have that same opportunity. The concern rolls into applications being submitted, resulting in a lower draw odds and the potential for other programs and business rules being amended to try to accommodate those lower draw odds. So those with high bonus points not being able to draw tags, amending the number of hunt choices a person can submit on an application, spreading the wealth, or amending the length of waiting periods are all subjects that are not new but could have potential ramifications, which was a concern of the department. The reality is that just more applicants and more applications with decrease in quotas, it's lower draw odds. But would it be fair for a minor to be transferred a once-in-a-lifetime tag at a very young age and then prohibited the rest of their lives from participating again in the program once they are more experienced hunter and better able to appreciate the opportunity? Harvest success rates are uncertain as junior hunters and their support systems are more vested in a successful harvest. So higher success rates could impact quotas after that 3-year average. Will people begin tag shopping? And so which is where a person would return a tag to retrieve a better one through this tag transfer program. Will the program assist in creating an unrealistic draw expectation once the junior becomes an adult and begins to apply as a junior hunter? So everyone watching and in this room knows that it's less likely to receive a tag every year in the draw. But to assist in the program implementation, and I just want to set expectations here, so if major changes to the licensing system are required, the timeline of development completion will be a factor. So the program will not be able to be implemented for use until the system is able to assign a transfer from one specific individual to another. And so current transfers are completed by manual work done from our licensing vendor staff, as they currently result in like 0 to 2 a year. So it's safe to assume that the transfer request will increase with this passage of this program, where manual work will not be able to accommodate the demand. And so just to reiterate, like if passed as written, it's most likely will not be available for use in the 2025 hunt season due to the need of that development work. And so lastly, this program has potential to put the department in the middle of evolving family dynamics. So a divorce or custody disagreement could find the department in the middle of a family dispute where the mom wants the son to receive a transfer tag, but the father does not. And so you might be thinking that's a little bit far-fetched of a concern, but we see it already around vessel ownerships and then linked accounts with customers where one parent refuses to unlink or apply for the child that is supported by the other parent. And so with all of that said, I want to thank, again, the TAG Allocation and Application Hunt Committee members for hearing the department's concerns and working with us to get us to a proposed regulation language that you see before you. Also included is a bit of inspiration from regulations in Arizona and Utah that assisted in the program's creation. And so the program details allows an adult to transfer mule deer tags to eligible minors. The program was designed to start off with mule deer and expand to other species once the program worked out its unforeseen kinks and growing pains that most new programs experience. So this excludes the transfer of a junior mule deer tag to another junior. So the minor receiving the transfer must be eligible to hunt the deer, which means the minor must have hunter education and an active hunting license on file before the transfer can be accepted. The minor also must not have been successful in drawing any other game tag the corresponding hunt year. So this item was put in place to allow the fair distribution of hunting opportunities to minors who had no big game opportunities awarded to them already for the upcoming season. A minor is limited to receiving one transfer tag each year they are eligible by age. The tag holder must provide the names of intended minors to receive the tag transfer at the time the application is submitted during the big game application period. So this item was suggested as a way to diminish the black market and force the person to tell us who they intend to transfer to, opposed to allowing for the option to throw out on social media a tag already owned and to sell to the highest bidder. But a person might not know if they're who they intend to transfer to, or if they intend to transfer at all. But this option does allow, or would allow, the applicant to put names of kids or grandkids as options in case the transfer is decided to be needed after the draw has taken place. Transfer requests must be submitted by the department on a department-created approved form, which aligns with similar business practices for other tag transfer tag programs in general. And the deadline to request a tag transfer is July 1 of each year. So this deadline was suggested to assist the department in administering the program without the approval of that additional staff hours and support to do so. Both parties will be treated as if they drew a tag in respect to losing bonus points in the antlered mule deer category. So again, this is not to be confused with the junior mule deer bonus point category, two separate programs. This one is focusing on the transferring of the adult antlered mule deer tag. So this item also remains consistent with other tag transfer programs found in the transfer to an organization program or transfers from a tag holder who has been diagnosed as terminally ill. The original tag holder is responsible for the tag fee payment and will accompany the minor into the field to assist with mentoring the minor on the hunt. Original tag holders will be limited to transferring tags within this program once in their lifetime. And to clarify, that is once in the adult's lifetime transferring to a minor through the program. The minor may receive one tag a year so long as they are eligible to receive the transfer. This item was suggested to prevent the continual gaming of the system that this program establishes. So theoretically, a single minor has the potential to have their name in the draw multiple times without their name actually being on the application. So if I, my husband, my mom, my sister, my brother-in-law all put my daughter's name on our applications intending to transfer to her if we draw, and then if you include hers, that's technically 6 names of hers in the draw. And so we want to, I guess, limit that game. And then transfer tags are not eligible for bonus point restorations if they are returned. This item was brought up in the past, or in a past tag allocation and application hunt committee meeting with the question of who should get their bonus points back in that situation. And so transfer tags are not also not eligible to be transferred an additional time or deferred. And so these items were added to alleviate the administrative need for the department to constantly touch big game tags before they're actually hunted on. And our deferral program also prevents a customer from transferring or re-deferring an already deferred tag in case anybody was planning on applying with just the intent to defer it and transfer it at a later time. You can't do that already. Lastly, it's prohibited to exchange money, goods, and services to facilitate the tag transfer. And so, okay, big thank you to everyone who helped with the creation of the program, from department staff and committee members and members of the public for their input. One additional note I do need to make is that the TAC heard this item again on Monday, and we're wanting a deeper discussion related to the 10 yards found on section 13A. So the department is prepared for discussion and to answer questions the commission may have around that. But with that, I can give the floor back to the commission for any questions and comments.
Thank you, Megan. And there's a lot on this one. Like this one, there's a lot to it. I guess a couple comments. I do want to note, this last TAC meeting and this commission meeting, there was some discussion of like where all this language came from. And I just want to point out, I think we had 3 or 4 TAC meetings to get to this point. And it wasn't like this, it just magically appeared out of the air, this go round. Like there was, I think it was like 4 meetings to get to this point, So the committees just aren't attended like the commission meeting or paid attention to it as much. And I would just like to point out that, a lot of this stuff does start in the committees. And I wish more people would pay attention to the committees, because it didn't just magically appear. And just to kind of follow up on the committee discussion, the bill as written isn't limited to mule deer, but the discussion that the committee had and we kind of ended up on was we thought this is going to be a brand new program. It was kind of and we just saw it on the tag deferral one, and we've seen it on other regulations. We were thinking along, the committee's thoughts were right or wrong. The commission can discuss it, but the committee's thoughts were to start out with mule deer, just to kind of, I guess, dip our toes in it and see how it goes and work the kinks out, because odds are there's going to be kinks in it that are going to have to get worked out once the program starts. You work those out before you open the door to all the tags. That was the thought process of the committee. So I just wanted to provide that to the commission. Commissioner Walther.
I mean, I may have more, but I'm just wondering within this, so a violation of any of the policies set forth, is that an issue that would come before the commission? Do we need to add a sentence? Do we need a reference? And in NAC, I mean, right now we're just saying strictly prohibited, but when and if there's an exchange of money, is that, I mean, do we just put, I don't know what we're referencing in there. It seems we could do it with one sentence, but we have no enforcement teeth within the policy.
Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. Again, the intent was honorable, just like the deferred tag. I mean, there's an effort here, and then you have a few actors, bad actors, that know what they're doing. Instead of pointing it out and saying, hey, did you think about this? Maybe we should shut the door. They're like, oh yeah, this is a great place to take a shot at some quick money, For me, being a regulator, that's what my career was all about. I have no problem working those guys out of the system. I have no problem at all. They have no business being in it. If that's how they want to play, laws and regulations are intended to encourage voluntary compliance. And if people choose not to, it's a choice. It's a choice. And if they choose to go down this road, then I'd hit them hard. Put them in, tell them you're going to lose your license, your hunting opportunities in Nevada for 10 years or permanently or whatever the case may be. Make it so the consequence is substantially greater than the benefit that they're seeking. And, I have no problem with that. Making what is it when you poach? A Class E felony? Is that what it is? I'm being a little facetious going that depth, but you get my point. They have no business being part of the system if they're going to do that. These people that are creating this challenge right now, they're sitting there looking for the loopholes. They're working on it. They're actively looking for ways to take advantage, and it's like, go do it somewhere else. Has there been any discussion about putting those tags just in a pool and having a draw for the kids that didn't draw that are still looking for a tag? It just goes into a pool just for juniors?
Management Analyst Megan Manfredi for the record. So yeah, when this was originally passed out of legislative session, the department did come, well, we brainstormed of different ways that we could potentially administer this program, and a youth-only draw was a suggestion, yes.
And I apologize if that hit here and I don't remember it. There's been a lot coming through here, a lot of good stuff, but I just didn't recall if we'd ever talked about it. But, you know, if this is gonna handle it, then I'm certainly willing to go down that path. But, you know, that seems like a quick way of leveling the playing field. You were talking about the kids that don't have big families, you know.
I guess my concern with that, I don't believe the intent of the NRS was to create a youth-only draw. It was to be able to transfer a tag to who you'd wish. You know, I believe that's the intent of that.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. I get that.
Yeah, and I was in the building with the bill, and that was the intent to pass down to a family member or someone to that effect. I was obviously in the TAC committee for some of this. I understand there's some concerns. I understand not everyone's happy with it. However, I'm very supportive of kind of the restrictions we put in place. Again, we've seen it with party tags, tag deferrals, and so I'm comfortable with mule deer only. I do, on 13A, the 10 yards was discussed. I was kind of supportive of increasing that yardage, maybe line of sight or 100 yards. Again, I could defer to someone else on that, but I wasn't supportive of an increase on the yardage. And I would also support Commissioner Walters' position or statement of putting some kind of teeth in this, just so we have a little more in case it opens up. So, thank you.
Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I was going to ask the same question on the 10 yards, because when you're out, 10 yards is not very far away, and it wouldn't take much to be further than that distance. So that was just one thing that I kind of picked up on. It maybe that's awful close, and maybe there could be some work done there.
Commissioner Booth.
Yes, being on the committee, there were a couple of items that I'm concerned about, and so was our CAB committee. And a member of the public that spoke to the committee, 8 and 13 would not be an issue if it stated that if a tag is transferred to another person, it will be treated as if he or she drew the tag with respect to any applicable waiting periods and bonus points. Therefore, if the transfer of the tag was to the youth, that responsibility would no longer be of that adult, and that would eliminate the need for 13 of being close to the individual of 10 yards. I think as a hunter education instructor, educator, and representing the public, and being honest and candid and noteworthy of your integrity, 10 yards is something that you're guessing at. I think it's difficult for law enforcement to judge it. I think it's difficult for anyone to judge 10 yards. And so I think by putting that clause in there is really asking individuals to be somewhat dishonest. So our CAB committee indicated if you wanted to keep this the way it is that you had to be in the same unit. And that's easily, I think it can easily be done.
Ms. Manfredi.
Thank you, Chairman. Megan Manfredi again for the record. So after the tag allocation and application hunt committee on Monday, we did have, well, I had discussions with our law enforcement division of, what is a, good suggestion of replacement there. And the reason why we had 13A in this regulation was to have it be more of a mentor type of program. And so and we're not going to die on that hill with the no more than 10 yards, but we did suggest and talk about maybe terminology of like actively assisting in the pursuit of the game, or just basically being on the hunt with the individual, with the minor. And so again, like, we're open to changing that 10 yards. It's just figuring out like word or good terminology to replace it with. So.
Commissioner McNinch.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm sitting here daydreaming a little bit, but also, you know, I'll just say it, you know, I mean, you know, it might settle down the potential where you have a family of, you know, that's got two sportsmen in it and 45 non-sportsmen in it, that they're all good with the youth going hunting and starting to put in their tag to, you know, you're putting those people in a position that if they do transfer a tag, they're gonna go out and hunt. It's not just sitting in a TV room and putting in for applications so that you increase somebody's odds. They'll have a little skin in the game themselves in order to make it work. So maybe that helps that, I don't know. But I can see where, you know, it might take a little bit of the edge off of that too, so.
Yeah, and Commissioner McNitch, that, I believe, like, the TAC, we had that discussion, and that was, and I'm speaking for myself, but the way I think everyone else was thinking, that was our thought as well, is that you leave that where they have to be with them at some form in the field, just for, it's another way to kind of keep the gaming down. Hopefully, but that was why we wanted to have some of that language in there. We did, I think the link, kind of where we started at 13A was Utah, and Arizona's got some language like it as well in their program, but Utah had some language real similar to 13A. They didn't have the 10 yards, but. Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, sitting on the TAC as well, and echoing some of the comments, yes, a lot of discussion around this, and I agree. That's where my position was on 13A. I don't know what the exact, you know, number is, or if there is a number, but I do like that mentorship aspect of it. I think somebody, based on a tag transfer, needs to be part of that process and in the field and mentoring, you know, our youth hunters. So again, I think there needs to be a number. It's just me personally. I don't know if 10 yards is that number, but I mean, I'd like to see something that, that again, satisfies that notion of mentorship, as well as, to Chair Caviglia's point, of reducing some of the risk of gaming. And my last comment regarding Commissioner Walther, and that is this notion of having some type of consequence in there. I appreciate that. We had a lot of discussion, and it's funny that through all that discussion and trying to make sure we put as much check and balances on this as possible to reduce gaming, we never talked about consequences. So anyway, I do appreciate that point and would certainly support having something in there as well. So anyway.
Dak Burkett.
So if you guys all remember, I know you all remember the first come, first serve program and how disastrous the gaming of that was. And that is obviously a concern for us, at least from my perspective. And so, Commissioner Walther, thanks for bringing that issue up. And Christy Knight provided me 2 statutes. I think this is very helpful. I think this will apply to. So NRS 502060 provides its, let's see, so subpart 4. Any person who makes any false statement or furnishes false information to obtain any big game tag issued pursuant to the provisions of this title is guilty of a gross misdemeanor, not just a misdemeanor. So arguably that statute would apply to this kind of conduct. We also had, it's a misdemeanor under, 501-385 as well. So that staute would apply to provide a misdemeanor, which would, of course, then under our demerit schedule, I'm sure, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but I'm sure under our demerit schedule, then you're going to get hit there as well. So there is a penalty that applies for gaming the system here. It's different than first come, first serve. Yeah, because you're falsifying a tag is essentially what you're doing. So that's good news.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, I do agree that there should be a mentor, the mentorship portion of this. And I think that they do need to be within some kind of close distance, but like I say, when you specify 10 yards in this, that's pretty close. And I don't know what the language would read if he just struck out the 10 yards and just left need to be within sight, or what does it say? Close enough to see and provide verbal assistance. I mean, where you're hunting, sometimes that might be 8 yards. Other places it could be, 50. So I think it needs, you're right, there's something needs to be there, but I don't know if I like the specific. It sounds like you guys had the same discussion, and I hate to question the committee because that's where we have the committee system to hammer it out, so we don't have to do it here, but.
And the committee, we never really came to an idea on that. We had asked the department to kind of look at that again, and law enforcement.
So then it was Megan's idea?
Yeah, it was Megan's idea. No. But yeah, we kind of asked them to look at that, and you want something that you can enforce too that's reasonable, right? Yeah. Additional commission questions or comments? Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regards to the enforcement side of things, to Dag Brigitte's point, is that reference of those NRSs, would that be something that we would need to put in this as a reference?
Yeah, that was Director Janae made that very point. Yeah, I think that's exactly what we should do. Let's include it, and then people will have a heads up.
Yeah. Additional commission questions or comments? All right, with that, I'll take it out for cab comment. Any cab comment in Las Vegas? Seeing none, any cab comment on Zoom?
Go ahead, Mr. Cooney.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Jim Cooney, Elko. We went through the discussion during our cab meeting. They like the idea of the junior tag transfer. Two key points that are brought up in the discussion this morning has addressed some of those, but we suggest removing the language at the 10 yards with the mentor. I remember the first few times I went hunting, my dad was always right close to me. I think most of you, your first experience, you didn't get turned loose and be 150 or 200 yards or even a half mile away from your mentor. The second thing that was brought up during our cab meeting was the original intent for the increased number of species, not just mule deer. I personally understand the reasoning behind the language of only doing mule deer, work the kinks out of the system. But we did have several members of the public that spoke with regards to this. So our cab was in support of it. However, we thought the 10 yards and the just mule deer needed to be changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. Additional cab comment on Zoom?
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Our cab ultimately went back and forth a lot on this, and we recommended that it goes back to the TAC for some additional wording, which has been talked about, a couple things. So for item number 3, I think item number 3, people would just it says the tag holder must designate the names and client IDs at the time of the application. I think people would just like to know how many names they could do. For instance, one of our members has 3 daughters. So he's like, I would like to put all 3 of my daughters down. So we would like to know how many names we'd actually be able to put down, and obviously more than one. A lot of the guys wanted more than one along with the public. Item number 7, we didn't think the youth should lose their bonus points, but I think you guys clarified that. We were worried about the junior points, so we were under the assumption they'd lose their junior points too, so I think that's fine. Item number 9, the once in a lifetime. We think it should be, don't think it should be wide open. We would like to see this, maybe you could do it 3 to 5 times, just for the same example I gave earlier. What if you have 3 daughters? And what if you are lucky enough to draw 3 tags? You're one of the lucky guys and you're able to draw 3 tags while your children are still in the youth, the youth game, and they don't draw tags. So we would like to see that maybe opened up a little bit instead of once in a lifetime. And then item number 13A, you guys talked about as well. In general, the wording on this, and I'm on the TAC as well, obviously, so I understand where all this came from. One of the guys brought up an example of his dad. His dad's 80 years old, and his daughter's a youth, and what if he draws a tag, but he can't physically get out into the field to be able to be within 10 yards? So how do we reword this to, to help that condition, right? I mean, is it only these guys have to hunt from the truck, or can there be a way to reword this so that scenario isn't an issue? But we did substantially talk about the gaming of the system. We do agree that these things need to be in place, but would also like to see it maybe just opened up a little bit. Also, we got a lot of comments from the public, especially with regards to having this open up to other species. I think in general, people were fine with trying it with mule deer, but ultimately they would like to see it opened up to other species. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any additional cab comment on Zoom? No. All right, with that, I will take it out for public comment. Any public comment in Las Vegas? Seeing none, any public comment on Zoom?
Go ahead, Mr. Belding.
For the record, Mel Belding, public. I believe that the reg, what we're doing here is not meeting the intent of what was given to the commission to figure out. So I think you have to substantially meet what the intent was. And I don't believe it's being met here at all. I spent hours in testimony at this, more hours with Rex, what he was trying to do. It was absolutely not a time that he mentioned family to family. It was more or less put up, shut up deal to the guys who said, hey, we're not giving enough tags to the kids. I believe this should be open to all big game tags, just exactly what they wrote it up for and what Rex's intention was. Number 3 should be deleted entirely. Most tag holders will not know that this program exists for years. This was never discussed in the hearing. Number 8, delete entirely. If I transfer a tag to a youth, by state law, I have no right, no legal right to discipline that kid. I might have disciplined my kids different than what someone is and thinks that I should be disciplining them. I have nothing to say really about it. Once I give it away, I'm at their mercy now. Number 9 should be deleted entirely. Number 13, delete entirely. Why are we making this program so damn restrictive? It's not in any other program that we offer. But yet, because this is a new program, we're going to get restrictive with it. I think that's dead wrong. I think that we're going down the right path about penalties. First-time tag holders should be exempt from this program. If we're worried about people, grandma and uncles getting in for it just to get a kid a tag or someone else, then we could stop it that way. I guess I got to say something. If the tag is sold, both people, 12 demerits immediately. If we prove it happened, end of story. They're done. And then I got to say this, and it's probably directed to, I don't want it just to Tom, but you know what? Damn it, if you don't want these comments from the public in the last meeting, then we shouldn't have a last meeting. This is not.
That was your 3 minutes, Mr. Belding. Go ahead, Mr. Rowe.
This is Kobe Rowe. I'm also part of the Washoe Cab, but I'm just going to speak as the public, as Member Brown, I think, addressed our concerns perfectly. I think the intent of this program is good, and we'd like to see it move forward. We just think that some of these items need to be rewritten. I think encouraging youth to hunt and having the mentorship is what we all want for the youth. So I really just want to reinforce what Member Brown said, and in particular, those issues 3, 7, 9, and 13 be addressed if it goes back to TAC or if they're addressed today. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment? No. All right, with that, I'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission.
I just want to kind of follow up on one item as to the comments on the mule deer. For me personally, I'd like to see it expand from just mule deer. With that being said, I'm full support as starting it here. And I don't want to speak for other commissioners, but that seemed to be the vibe of the TAC committee, is expanding it ultimately to other species, but starting with mule deer just to see what happens.
Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Considering what we just talked about on the deferrals, this seems a little more cautious, and I think it's a little better way of approaching it. And as far as the, I don't know. I think it is. I think it's got a lot of upside for sure. I do wonder. I think the enforcement aspect. I have no concern with that. On 13. The 10 yards, that's difficult. I mean, you're out there with a tape measure technically. If from an enforcement, Christy might be able to speak to it a little better. But maybe there's a way to. The point is that they're out there with them. That's the point. And so maybe there's a way to reword some of that language, in close proximity, and then define close proximity to be that they're within, that they're there to talk about. Well, that's what we're doing here as a company in the field. Maybe there's a way to talk about, that they're out there and they're there's got to be another way of doing it, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a little, I didn't come in with a suggestion. I usually try to make a suggestion, but I'm okay removing the 10 yards and doing something different to kind of make that a little bit easier to enforce and, not put people on a rope together.
And I guess just to clarify, unless I'm reading something wrong, we have no familial ties in this. Like somebody could give a tag to absolutely anyone in this program. There's no familial tie, right? So that is not in here. I do wonder, and Megan, you briefly mentioned it at the TAC committee meeting, and I don't think we really and ever ended up on a consensus on or anything on it, but number 3, the designating the minors at the time of application. Is that something we need within the reg? Need to define the number of people?
Management analyst Megan Manfredi for the record. In the regulation, no, we do not need to define the number of people, but if it's the commission's want to set a number, we can then have our licensing vendor, Gordon Darby, design the program to like limit to 3 or 5 or whatever number that the commission would like to choose. But it does not, again, does not need to be written in regulation to do so.
And then number 9, we did have number 9 as far as a tag holder may only transfer a tag through this program once in their lifetime. We did have some discussion at that on the TAC, and I don't think we ever really came to a conclusion on that one either. And I kind of agree with some of Washoe's comments on that. You know, I have 3 daughters. You know, they've got not a giant, but a big spread in age. And, you know, what if I want to if I wanted to give a tag to a couple of them, not just one, right? They're for the juniors or any juniors, or if you have an individual throughout their lifetime that wants to give away 10 tags to juniors, to any juniors, right? I don't know, do we really want to limit that, right? The odds are anymore in Nevada, you don't draw a tag every year, right? You're lucky to draw a tag every 5 years. I mean, really, even our low draw units, right? So do we want to limit somebody to that? I'm just for discussion.
Yeah. I hear you. I have 4 boys. You know, only one really took advantage of the youth hunting opportunities, but we're kind of trying to find that balance, right? With the kids that have opportunity and the kids that don't. Whether we like it or not, that's a reality, and as a board, it's important for us to keep that in mind. If we're not careful, we're going to stack the deck in favor of those kids that are already very engaged, and they've got a lot of people in their lives that are willing to put in and do this stuff. It's an issue. It's not a joke. It happens, and just the conversations tell you that people are thinking that way. You know, just the conversations. It's not bad. I'm just saying that it's a conversation. You know, like, well, what if my whole family wants to do this and put in all 3 names to make sure they all get a tag? I think we have to be careful with it. I'm not saying that I'm for the lifetime ban. I don't know where I'd fall out on that ultimately, but it didn't hit me funny to do it just that way. But to take that off the table and loosen that up a little bit, maybe there's some opportunity there. But we're doing this fine. It's a balance, I think. That's why the draw kind of appeals to me a little bit more. You know, it just takes all that off the table.
Yeah, and to Chair Cavilla's on number 9, I brought up on the TAC committee. I thought it was a good point that Washoe brought up, and I would be comfortable opening it up for more than just one. Again, I probably want to be cautious deleting it, but I think increasing it from 1, I would definitely be comfortable with that.
And I agree with Commissioner McNitch. There's a real fine line to walk. We've learned on other ones, you know. Commissioner,
if I was putting it in my family, and everybody was willing to do it, it's substantial. A lot of people could be involved. Man, talk about stacking the deck. So.
Well, I mean, I guess on that point, I'm in full support of this program. Just kind of working through some of those kinks, but not necessarily like to Mel's point, just made me kind of think, well, maybe you're not saying first time tag holder, but you could say first time applicant to try and stop dilution of the draw, essentially. And then, if it's my first tag, I want to give it away, fine. And if it's, my 10th, you know, no big deal, right? But maybe you stop the rush by saying first-time applicant. But then again, maybe that only works for first year and they burn it through, and, you know, I mean, we got to get the program rolling, and there's going to be issues out there.
And again, I mean, number 9's not one, like, that's not the hill I'm gonna die on either, right, at all. Just for discussion. Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and you can see now through this dialogue how we grappled with this at the TAC committee, right? And how some of the items that we're touching on are some of the items that Chair Cavilla said, well, we just never really, you know. So I think that and I guess it's a case where with something new like this, we just don't know what we don't know, right? And that's why I do believe that starting with mule deer is a very good starting point, because yes, my hope is that eventually we absolutely open this to other species. Specific to some of the items that were talked about, though, specific to number 9 and number 13, yes, I mean, I personally agree that there's, you know, some wiggle room there to maybe expand that a little bit. Same thing with the 13A. Again, I do personally believe that there needs to be something in there, some mentorship, but, you know, 10 yards may be a bit restrictive, whether that's line of sight or, you know, to Commissioner Barnes' point, something that, you know, opens it a little bit more. But anyway, but I do like that mentorship aspect.
Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, after some of this discussion, I do think that maybe there needs to be some work on 3 and 9. I mean, really, when you look at it, it does make it pretty restrictive, and I mean, does it really make any difference if you name them at the time of when you apply or not? I say maybe, I mean, I would be okay if we just omitted that completely, and maybe even 9 too. I mean, if somebody wants to, if their tag's away, transfer them. I mean, that's kind of their business. So I would be good with omitting those two, really. And then, of course, then expand 13 so it's not quite, makes it a little more reasonable. I mean, I think obviously you need a mentor there. I think that's something good to have in there, but the distances, open that up just a little bit so it's not so restrictive and make it kind of manageable.
Commissioner Booth.
I would agree with that statement in eliminating the 10 yards completely, because it means the youth and adult must remain close enough for the adult to see and provide verbal assistance. And without that yardage, I think it's easy to comprehend and allow the mentor to follow the intent of this clause. Also, relative to the number 3, Megan, the more numbers that go into that for transferring, doesn't that create more work for the staff? So
Thank you.
I mean, if it's multiple numbers, or should it be limited to 3 or 5 or 100?
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Booth. How I see it, it would be a data point collected and provided to the department once the draw results are ran. And so if a customer came with a tag transfer request to the department, we could easily pull up that customer's account, see which names are on there. I wouldn't suggest going to 100, but, you know, limiting to a reasonable amount. And then, so basically we have pre-direction from the applicant, their intended transfers, and we can hold them accountable to, this is what you provided us. And if you didn't provide us any names, then unfortunately they would be denied that transfer request. But that is their opportunity to let us know, this is who this is who I intend to transfer to, you know, and months down the line, here's my paperwork, it's going to my daughter, your daughter's name's on the list, absolutely, let's get you going. So I don't think that the number of names there would be an issue, like a burden on the department for administratively reviewing, because if it's 1 or if it's 100, we would have to look and review regardless. We're just, you know, confirming, hey, your transfer, your intended transfer on your application matches that of your transfer paperwork, and so we would move forward that way. I hope that answered your question.
It did.
Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, I do have a question. So regarding that, so you have to have a name of somebody to transfer to before you do that, or you can't do it? That's why number 3 is in there then?
So yes, correct, Commissioner Barnes. Number 3 is in there as a way for the department to prevent that black market. I guess theoretically it could still happen, but if we knew ahead of time before anybody knew they had a tag, it's less likely to go for, I guess, big money on the back end, is what we were trying to prevent.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. That makes sense to me now.
Yeah, and I just, like, really what 3 and 9 do, just add more levels of teeth in it. That's what it does. It's just how restrictive do you want it to be? That's truly what it is. And I mean, if, like anything we ever do up here, it can always change. You know, do we want to start really restrictive? We just saw it on the deferral thing, what happened, right? So do you start really restrictive? You know, and then you always have the opportunity to back off, right?
That's certainly that would certainly feel better for me personally. That's easier considering what we just went through. And we didn't suffer the consequences of that, the department did, you know.
Any additional thoughts? Megan, go ahead.
Thank you. It's before the commission. It sounds like you guys are about to maybe make a motion, but before that happens, I would like to gather the intent of how many names would the commission like on that application portion?
And this is a workshop today, so maybe that's homework. We can kind of mull it over. And maybe that when we come back, it's going to come back, we can provide that then.
Great point. It's a tough call too, right? I got 3. The once in a lifetime thing, I mean, I'm not going to die on that either. It is what it is. I was trying to hide from them well beyond 18, which was my favorite. But on the number, I mean, you know, you got a neighbor down the street, you got 8 kids that are in this age range that he's desperately trying to get a tag for. So I think you have to go high enough to accommodate parents and you know, see where we're at, but you got to leave some room in there. Let them decide whose favorite is once the tag comes out, but
And the other side of this is that life's not always fair. You know, I had that situation on my twins. I had one that made All-Stars and one did not. And I had an opportunity to squeeze the other one on because I was managing the team. But I didn't do that because that's not what had been decided. That's not how life works necessarily. That wouldn't have been fair to the kid that I'd have kicked off because he wasn't. And so I sat one down and said, hey, you made All-Stars. And I sat the other one down and said, you didn't. And that was the end of it. You know, I mean, life's not fair that way. So, you know, maybe not all of them get what they want. That's part of life too. And so I'm not afraid of having a restriction there. I mean, how high do you go? You know, I could say, well, 12 to 18, so put it at 7. Well, then somebody comes up and says, well, yeah, we've had a kid every year, but the middle fourth, the fourth ones were triplets. So we need to make it 10. You know, now how many am I trying to include into that process? You know, I mean, how rare is that? I think there's a reasonable number. I don't think it needs to be 10 or 20. I think that, you know, saying, hey, if you want to put a couple of your kids in and you got a whole family, maybe that helps limit that stacking the deck too. Maybe 10 of the family members can only put in for one or two, and the other 10 need to put in for the other one or two. You see what I'm saying? So to me, that's how that would play out in my mind. So I'm okay with 2 or 3 names or 4, you know, 3 to 5. I don't know. I mean, something kind of in that range, but to just blow it wide open, I think that, you know, we got to continue to find that balance. So.
I'm not seeing much movement, so I'm going to make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to forward the proposed, let's see, let me get it right, NAC, what is it? Commission General Regulation 521, junior tag transfer to a future commission workshop. And I would ask, just based upon the discussion today, I would ask the department in the interim to take a look at item number 13 and get with law enforcement and see if we can come up with the department come up with some proposed language there that's not as restrictive as the 10 yards. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent. And let's take a 10-minute bathroom break real quick.
penalties. Both of them, I think, are already covered under NRS, basically that dictate when a review would be required. But I know we'll have public comment from one person. Would it, do you think it would constitute another workshop if we added clarification in here? The developers don't have to submit to us, if the county doesn't have to submit to us, county or governing body?
I don't think LCD is gonna even let us put that in there because it's an NRS.
That's what I thought too, but.
So I think
was
that
like-
even if we were to add that, LCD would say NRS
Max it.
already, yeah.
They did that to me before when I was developing
Yes.
this, and that's when I tried to share.
We
To
could
it,
add it.
and
I
then-
don't think it's gonna require another workshop because it's already in the NRS.
That's what I thought too,
So
but I
we
was
can
like.
add it if that's really the consensus, but I think it's gonna be taken back out when we submit it. So.
That's what,
I
I
mean-
was like, I don't think, but whatever.
But yes, if you would like to
Okay.
just say let's add it, then.
How the fuck do I use this thing? Are they just on?
As long as it works. I allow 15 minutes. Right, so I understand, I try not to get. But that's her business.
I knew that the one we just did.
Take the car back to the office. Okay. And then just Uber to the airport. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. No, no. That's fine. Okay. All right. So I just need to go get my shoes. Oh, okay. Yeah. So Jordan wants Megan and I to take the car back to the office.
Change topics. I'm gonna get your.
If everybody wants to start heading back to their seat, we're going to get going again. All right. We're going to go to agenda item number 19, Commission General Regulations Adoption Public Comment Allowed for Possible Action. 19A, Commission General Regulation 500 Subdivision Map Review, Wildlife Staff Specialist Jasmine Kleber. The commission will hold an adoption hearing to consider amending Nevada Administrative Code 278 to provide for the department review of tentative subdivision maps and inclusion of recommendations for methods to avoid or minimize impacts to wildlife, mitigation measures, best management practices, or required design features, and provide for collection of associated fees to the department for carrying out such reviews.
Well, good morning, everyone. Jasmine Kleiber, Wildlife Staff Specialist in the Habitat Division, for the record. Now this morning, after multiple iterations of this subdivision review regulation, we are now at a point where it is up for possible adoption. This regulation has been workshopped around 23 times across the state over the last 2 years, and we've solicited quite a bit of feedback from different organizations and entities around the state. That includes a public house in-person meeting that we just held this past January. I believe that today we'll hear public comment speaking to some of the points that came from that public open house as well. So a couple of pieces of very recent feedback that have not been incorporated into the draft regulation you see in front of you come under the form of a point of clarification relative to a developer not being required to submit a tentative map for review to NDOW in instances when the planning or governing body does not have to submit a tentative map to NDOW for review, as well as some feedback relative to instances of estate planning where a large parcel may be developed for residential development for family members at the passing of the original owner. That feedback came from the State Land Use Planning Advisory Council meeting that was held about a week and a half ago, or SLUPAC meeting. So for both of those pieces of recent feedback, in reviewing with our policy analyst, Kaylee Musso, we believe that both of those are already covered under NRS, and so they were not included. However, we wanted to ensure that you guys were aware that feedback has come in recently for consideration. With that, I know that you guys have reviewed these draft regulations a couple of times now, and so I'll stand by to offer any clarification, context, or answer any questions.
Any questions? Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, as it relates to the item that you were just talking about in terms of the clarification change, so is it specifically addressed in NRS, the clarification that if the local government doesn't have an obligation to submit to NDOW, that the developer shouldn't either then?
No, it does not. It's not pointed out in that type of language. What is pointed out is simply that the developer would only be required when the county or governing body is. That's the only thing, that's the trigger. The trigger for a map to be submitted to NDOW is when it's being submitted to one of those bodies. And so that's where it's covered. If it's not being submitted to one of those bodies, there would be no need to submit it to NDOW. We were only added to the list of review entities when it's submitted to those bodies.
Additional questions or comments from the commission? All right, seeing none, I'm going to take it out for cab comment. Any cab comment in Las Vegas?
For the record, Paul Dixon, Chair of Clark Cab. I have several members of my board that are on surveying or development companies here in Las Vegas, and they're concerned. Their concerns with this were what we had last time, is that they feel that from a state and federal perspective, we have been hit with enough rules and regulations that they're not sure what value added the NDOW review does to what is already there, was the question asked. I'm not able to answer that question, so I thought I'd bring it to the commission if there was a thing to say what would be the additive benefit of this. They said they don't feel the department has the people qualified to be looking at how some of these things are developed, which means they're going to have to hire or train different staff. And so the fees that you would charge to get this done do not cover that staff member. So where would the money come from to do this, was a question asked, and I didn't know the answer to that one either, so I thought I'd just raise it. And then finally, one of the board members interviewed one of the Clark County Planning Commissioners, and he stated that this regulation as written was unimplementable, and that was the statement made in my meeting. So I bring those three comments to you. And again, I have no basis for saying they're right, wrong, or indifferent, but I was asked to put those in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any additional cab comment in Las Vegas? Any cab comment on Zoom? Okay. Any public comment in Las Vegas? Any public comment on Zoom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Josh Hicks, and appreciate the opportunity to make some public comment. I'm an attorney at McDonald Carano, and I'm really the source of this clarification question that you have in front of you. Before addressing that, I did just want to thank Jasmine and the staff. They've been absolutely terrific to work with. The opportunities to review and participate in this process has been terrific. There have been several changes to the reg over the time that clarified things and made things a lot easier to deal with. So it's really been a good process. we really just have one lingering question, and it's a clarification question. I don't think there's any question about how everyone thinks this reg would apply, but the technical language, and particularly people reading this regulation down the road is a concern. I outlined those concerns in a letter that was submitted to the board dated November 3rd, 2023. But I'd just like to mention that to you here today. If you look at the proposed regulation itself and you look at section 6, subsection 1, what this section does is it puts the onus on a developer to submit a tentative map to NDOW for review. And that's actually a good thing. My clients in this are the Southern Nevada Home Builders and the Builders Association of Northern Nevada. They submit tentative maps to local governments all the time. Many of those maps go to NDOW for review. Submitting directly to NDOW is a good thing. It speeds up the process for everybody, for NDOW and for developers. But that's a little bit different than what the statutory requirement is. And you can see in section 6, sub 1, there's a reference to a portion of NRS 278-335. And if you go to that statute itself, what that statute does is it puts an obligation on a local government to submit a map, a tentative map to NDOW with certain exceptions. And those exceptions are generally with respect to if the local governing body has a habitat conservation plan that's been approved by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, or if the subdivision is infill. And that habitat conservation plan is really applicable only in Clark County. So right now, the way things stand, the only obligation to submit a tentative map to NDOW is on a local government. And there is no obligation, like I said, with the habitat conservation plans or for infill. The regulation changes that and puts the onus to submit the map on the developer. Now, section 6.1, sub 1 does refer to the statute, but because the statute only applies to maps submitted by a local government, we are concerned that it will not apply to maps submitted by a developer. And while we're all saying the same thing right now, we don't think it applies that way. Down the road, someone may have a different interpretation of this based on the plain language. And our goal here is really just to get the language correct. I did submit some
We lost you. Oh,
Sorry about that.
I
Get me back?
would let him keep going.
Thanks. Sorry, I got muted somehow. The proposed language I submitted in the letter that I referenced just makes it very clear that if a local government does not have an obligation to submit a map to NDOW, a developer should not have that obligation either. And we're just hopeful that, I understand, it sounds like staff has presented this to Legislative Council Bureau and they have said they didn't think it was necessary. We respectfully disagree with that opinion. And what we're hopeful for today is that the commission in processing this regulation will include direction to Legislative Council Bureau to take another look at that language and just make it very clear to that point I just made, that if a local government doesn't have an obligation, that the developer shouldn't have the obligation either. And again, technically, the way this is worded right now, it doesn't work. It does not read that way. And we're just trying to avoid any kind of confusion or problems down the road. And I'm happy to answer any questions for the commission.
Thank you. I think we'll just continue public comment and then we'll bring it back to Jasmine. Any additional public comment on Zoom? No. All right. I saw Jasmine nodding during his comments, so.
Yeah, Jasmine Cliver, for the record. Everything that was just shared with us via public comment is correct. In fact, Josh went so far as to provide to us his interpretation in direct language in this document. So I have a copy of it. It was really fantastic that he went above and beyond instead of asking me to take my best shot at it. And it's very appreciated. I don't see issue with trying to include that in. And if we wanted to do that, it also wouldn't necessarily qualify as a substantial change that would require additional workshop.
So you're saying it wouldn't qualify as a substantial change?
It would not qualify as a substantial change.
Do you want to, would you like to run through his proposed changes?
Oh, I apologize, I don't have those in front of me. I suspect Josh may still be on the line if we ask.
Yeah, I mean, we don't normally do, but let's let Josh, we all want to get it right, so let's let Josh back into the forum.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So I don't know if I can share my screen. If I could show it to you. If I can't, I did include it in my letter on November 3rd, but basically what I did is that I wrote a new section 7 in section 6. And I'll just read it since I can't share my screen. But this was my suggested language. It says, quote, "A developer shall be exempt from the requirements of this section if a planning commission or its designated representative, or if there is no planning commission, the clerk or other designated representative of a governing body does not submit the tentative map to the Department of Wildlife pursuant to NRS 278.335 1D. So again, that is really just my attempt to make it very clear that if the local government has no obligation to submit the map, the developer should have no obligation to submit the map. I'm not tied to that language. That was just my attempt to try to put something in there that made it very clear. Because again, applying to an exemption that only applies to a local government in a regulation that only applies to a developer, I don't think is going to work and is going to cause issues down the road. So again, that language, I know Jasmine has it, and it is in my letter that I submitted to the commission in November.
All right, thank you, Josh. I guess, Jasmine, does the department have any issues with that proposed language, additional language?
Jasmine Kleiber, for the record, we do not.
Additional commission questions or comments? I'm going to close public comment now again. And I guess, Dag Burkett, we don't have any issues agenda-wise adding that language. That wouldn't be considered substantial change?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, I think I'm good with that added language. I liked with that added language. Said it kind of took care of a couple of the concerns that I had, so I'm good with it.
Commissioner Keel.
Thank you, Chairman. With that, I'll go ahead to move to adopt Commission General Regulation 500 and subdivision map review as presented with the noted changes that were laid out in the November 3rd, 2023 letter to the Commission.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent. Okay, we'll go to agenda item number 19B, Commission General Regulation 511, Wildlife Management Area Designations, Habitat Administrator Mark Fries. The Commission will hold an adoption hearing to consider amending Chapter 504 of the Nevada Administrative Code. This regulation would update wildlife management area designations and restrictions.
Good morning, Chair Caviglia, fellow commissioners, Mark Fries, Habitat Division Administrator. So if you recall, this WMA regulation came about because we've recently acquired Argenta Wildlife Management Area and the Pole Canyon Conservation Cooperative WMA, as well as absorbing the Blue Diamond properties into Steptoe. That necessitated some changes within the regulations to make sure these WMAs are operated safely, as well as good for the public. So that's the background on it. You've seen the LCB regulations. No major changes since the last time this was heard. The biggest change has been the clarification with regard to the Blue Diamond properties and defining the Steptoe Wildlife Management Area, separating it into a meadow unit, which is Steptoe proper, and the mountain units, which includes those Blue Diamond properties, as well as would accommodate any additional land acquisitions like we heard earlier. So that's the biggest changes. We worked on those definitions from LCB. We decided to define the meadow unit is comprised of the portion of the Steptoe Valley Wildlife Management Area that is located within Unit 111 or Unit 222 as designated in NAC 504-210 and is west of the boundary line of the Cave Lake State Park. And the mountain unit is comprised of the remaining portion of the Steptoe Valley Wildlife Management Area that is not within the meadow unit. So that's the largest change. And then this morning, Deputy Director McAdoo was reviewing the Pole Canyon conservation easement and noticed a potential error. And so we worked with Dag Burkett this morning, and I'll draw your attention to that. It's under Section 1, subsection 3, item D. And this is regard to the Pole Canyon Cooperative WMA. Section D says, providing a guide service pursuant to NRS 504-390. And we wish to add onto that, except as provided in Section 11 of the Pole Canyon Public Access Easement, which has to do, it was a clause in the Pole Canyon Access Easement, has to do with commercial services, of which guiding is one, and it calls an exception unless the owners of Pole Canyon and the department agree to allow that use. And so we're just trying to provide clarity and be consistent with the Pole Canyon Access Easement with that addition. With those comments, I will stand for any questions.
Mark, I do have a question. White Pine brought up, they were asking on being section 4, number 2, we talk about the person may hunt big game in the certain wildlife management areas, you know, and we allow shotguns and bow and arrows. They were questioning if you could potentially allow muzzleloaders in there as well. I mean, I think ballistically a muzzleloader and a shotgun are pretty close. I don't know if the department had any thoughts on that. White Pine Cab brought that up.
Yeah, Chairman Caviglia, good question. Mark Fries, Habitat Division Administrator. I caught that yesterday, was visiting with our law enforcement staff about the ballistics. I'm no expert on ballistics, but given the proximity of those areas to houses, the town of Battle Mountain, I would be nervous accepting that, as well as the additional uses on the WMAs, fishing. We've got people actively living on these areas. Today's muzzleloaders can go quite a bit further than a shotgun. Like I said, I'm no ballistic expert. We could run the numbers analysis, figure out truly if that's an issue, but today I'm a little bit nervous from a safety standpoint.
No, and I just wanted to bring it up. And then I do want to I did have a question just on Pole Canyon. As far as like hunting small game and upland game, that's going to be allowed in Pole Canyon? Okay, just want to confirm. Any additional questions or comments for the department? Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, I have a question. Same thing in Pole Canyon. It says hunting any predator. I mean, if all of a sudden there's issues up there with a lion or something, is there any way, is it completely excluded, or can you go in and get them if you need to?
Yeah, good question, Commissioner Barnes. I believe the intent, and Deputy Director McAdoo can clarify, I believe the intent is not to allow predator hunting. That was the private landowner's desire. I believe if NDOW had an issue, we would be able to, because that wouldn't technically be considered hunting.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Barnes. Yeah, the thought, it was absolutely discussed as this was being negotiated and developed, that there could arise a time where control could be necessary. And so I would have to review the document a little bit further, but it is built in for administrative use by the department if, you know, if there were problems that arose, to adapt and deal with those in the future.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments from Commissioner McNinch?
Thank you. Maybe I was asleep at the wheel on, so shot, this would be under section 4(2)B, and it's referring to allowing a person may hunt big game mammals on Mason Valley, Wayne Kirch, and Argenta using shotguns containing shot that is toxic or larger than standard size T. And I know that there's places where we're saying you can't use toxic. Why is it important to allow
that? Can you clarify why is it important to allow toxic shot in that section?
Yeah.
In Mark Freese, Habitat Division Administrator, for the record, I may ask for help. I don't know if Chief Game Warden would be able to help clarify. I'm not sure how much non-toxic, right, slugs there are, what the options are, but I suspect that may be an issue, and if we didn't allow those non-toxic, it would essentially eliminate some of the big game hunting opportunities. It removes that opportunity.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm there yet. It hit me funny because I remember when we had the conversation about outlawing, when we did outlaw toxic shot on wildlife management areas, it was a big deal. Kind of taking that step that we were drawing that line that, hey, we're not going to allow the accumulation of shot on our wildlife management areas. And, you know, things are concentrated there. And, you know, there's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, it has to do with our, you know, I mean, your dabbling ducks in particular, they tend to, you know, they get into where that shot falls out into the water, whatever it might be. But, yeah, I'm just kind of curious, if that's a direction we want to go, because if it comes down to hitting power, I mean, some of the stuff that's out there now, I'm not sure it's an issue anymore. But I'm probably the furthest away from fully understanding all that stuff than anybody up here. But when I see us take that step back the other way, I'm not sure why.
Yeah, Mark Freese, Habitat Division Administrator. I would also suspect it's not as big of an issue in these areas. There's limited big game hunting opportunities. And we're talking about that one tag may have one slug, generally away from the water bodies in the upland areas. It's not quite the same as duck hunting where people are shooting 20 shots, right, on a trip. So I believe it's probably not as big of an issue with that single slug, comparing it to the waterfowl.
Sorry to take us down the path here, but are we talking slugs or are we talking the shot? Because I was referring to shot. Am I talking apples and oranges here, or apples and apples? I don't see where 4.6 is. Well, it's certainly putting parameters on it. But we've also written in an exception under number 3.
And I guess me reading it, number A, you talk about slugs and, you know, or shotgun rounds with sabots, and then item B, the way I read it, Commissioner Minch, is the same. It's opening it up to shot.
Yeah.
And I don't know either. never attempted to hunt with shotguns, big game, but, just a question, do we allow hunting with big game with shot?
Mark Freeze, Habitat Division
She's
Administrator.
waiting
I defer
patiently.
to Chief Game Warden.
Chief Game Warden Christy Knight for the record. Can you ask that question one more time?
So the number 2, we're specifically talking about shotguns or rifled shotguns with slugs or sabbated rounds, right? Item B, I'm reading it the same as Commissioner McNinch, shotguns containing shot, right? So, and then that was my question, do we allow big game hunting with shot to begin with of any sort? Or does it have to be a slug or
Slug.
sabbated round?
It would have to be a slug, I believe. I'll double check on that, but I believe it has to be a slug.
So then you might just want to strike that whole, because you have item A has slugs or, sabbated rounds.
I will look it up real quick, but there may be an exception for mountain lion specific.
Okay. Any additional commission questions or comments? All right, I'll take it out while she's looking that up. I'll take it out for cab comment. Any cab comment?
For the record, Paul Dixon, Park Cap. I asked this question last time it was in the commission, and I don't know if we ever got an answer, but if you go to section 3B1, talks about motorized vehicle, including without limitation any electric or battery operated vehicle. And the question that was raised in my cab had to do with the fact if that is compliant with ADA rules, you have people that have disabilities that have electric vehicles that access these things. And if you have a disability in access, you'd be in violation if you read this. Even the exception is you can be in the parking lot or within 1,350 yards of the parking lot. But my question is if somebody wanted to access Pole Canyon in an off-road electric vehicle, they're handicapped. This doesn't allow that, and are we in violation of ADA? And I was wondering whether the Attorney General or legal had to address that, just to make sure we don't get ourselves into one of those things. Because we made a lot of a push. We were looking at muzzle loaders with sights and all that to make sure we were being ADA compliant. I just don't know if we've had that reading here. I hadn't heard a response back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any additional cab comment in Las Vegas? Any cab comment on Zoom? No? All right, any public comment in Las Vegas? Any public comment on Zoom? All right, with that, I will bring it back to the commission. And I guess does the department have any ADA concerns with the language? I mean, I don't, the way I read it, you still, I guess maybe I'm confused with the question, but a motor vehicle, including without limitation electric or battery electric vehicle or a bicycle, I don't necessarily understand that.
I gotta be honest, I've done ADA work in the past, and this would take me some time to give you a 100% guaranteed lockdown opinion on that. But I think of Forest Service issue things where we've definitely excluded and provided limited access for people of limited mobility in many ways. But I honestly am not going to give you an opinion on that.
Gotcha. No, I mean, you're real limited on the Pole Canyon, right? It's a parking lot and then the 1,340 feet of road. Beyond that, it's literally forest through the mountain.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, Deputy Director Caleb McAdoo, for the record, I think maybe just for everyone's edification, it would be beneficial that I just briefly describe kind of how we arrived here. with respect to Pole Canyon. So this project was about a decade in the making. And as that progressed and this access easement was developed, really that's a negotiation with the landowner to, I mean, these things do not occur that often, right? So this is a very big win for the public and sportsmen. And so with that, these stipulations that are reflected in the rig specific to Pole Canyon are actually recorded components of the access easement. So if you went to Elko County website, you know, it's reflected in that access easement. So we're just trying to maintain compatibility with all of those agreements and items that are within that access easement. So I can't specifically speak to the ADA piece, but just so you know why there are these restrictions. And I think that's some of the questions that have arisen before, so.
Thank you. And I guess my logic is you're really limiting everybody to Pole Canyon, everyone, you know, all motorized access of any sort, you know. But, yeah. All right. Go ahead.
I do have clarification. So in NAC 503.142, Section 6, a person may hunt deer and mountain lion with a shotgun no larger than 10 gauge and no smaller than 20 gauge. Only rifled slugs or shotgun rounds with a sabot that contain a single expanding projectile may be used when hunting deer. A shotgun that is used to hunt deer or mountain lion pursuant to this subsection may be equipped with a smooth bore barrel or a barrel that is partially or fully rifled.
So basically, yeah, it's got to be, a shot is not allowed then. It might just be as simple as striking item B. Any additional commission questions or comments? Or movement?
Okay, well, with that, if we're done, well, so this was up for, what have I done with my agenda? Okay, well, with that in mind, then I'll make a motion to approve Commission General Regulation 511 Wildlife Management Area Designations as proposed, except that Section 4.2B be removed and the appropriate editing be done to rework that section.
And then I would add, Commissioner McNitch, the department did ask for some additional language on 3D. They had some verbiage there regarding I guess the access easement they had mentioned earlier.
Okay, then including what they had proposed with respect to that as well.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent. Thank you. Agenda item number 20, Commission Regulations, public comment allowed for possible action. 28, Commission Regulation 24-10, migratory game bird seasons, bag limits, and special regulations for waterfowl and webless migratory game birds, public hunting limited on wildlife management areas and designated state lands for the 2024-2025 seasons. Wildlife Staff Specialist Russell Wolstenhume. The Commission will consider recommendations for seasons, bag limits, and special regulations for migratory game birds for the 2024-2025 season and adopt regulations consistent with the proposed regulations framework for the 2024-2025 hunting seasons on certain migratory game birds established by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The Commission will also consider rules regarding public hunting on wildlife management areas and designated state lands. And I feel like that was a whole lot to say.
Russell Wolstenhume, Department of Wildlife, for the record. Not only was that a lot to say, there's a lot to cover here, and it's fairly complex. So, Mr. Chair, at your discretion, I can probably bundle parts of it and make it a little easier, if that's your desire.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I will start off with, I think that we can do together on page 1. mourning dove and white-winged dove and American crow together, so I will proceed with that. Mourning dove and white-winged dove statewide September 1st through October 30th of 2024. Daily bag limit 15, possession of 45, with associated shooting hours and special regulations. American crow statewide September 1st through November 17th of 2024, and also March 1st through April 15th of 2025. The daily bag limit of 10, shooting hours and special regulations included.
Any questions or comments for Russell regarding mourning and white-winged dove and American crow? Okay, seeing none, any cab comment in Las Vegas? Seeing none, any cab comment on Zoom? Any public comment in Vegas? Public comment on Zoom? I'll bring it back to the commission. Vice Chair Rogers?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there's no more discussion, I'll attempt to make a motion here. I'd like to make a motion for approval of Commission Regulation 24-10, migratory game bird seasons, as it specifically relates to mourning and white-winged dove, as well as American crow, as presented.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 2, we'll start off with ducks and mergansers, but there's a number of them. Once we go through I got a change that I need to make on the ducks and mergansers, but it sets seasons for a number of others. So once I cover that change, then I'll tell you which ones that are likely to be bundled together with that. So there's an error on the date under the northeast zone for ducks and mergansers. The January 15th date is incorrect, and that should be January 20th of 2025. And with that change, then I'll read through the entirety of this portion of the regulation. Ducks and mergansers, the northeast zone, September 28th of 2024 through December 3rd of 2024, and December 14th of 2024 through January 20th of 2025. For the northwest zone, dates of October 12th, 2024 through January 6th of 2025, and January 9th of 2025 through January 26th of 2025. For the south zone, except the Moapa Valley, dates of October 12th of 2024 through October 20th of 2024, and October 23rd through January 26th of 2025. Within the south zone, the Moapa Valley to the confluence of the Muddy River and the Virgin Rivers, dates of October 26th of 2024 through January 26th of 2025. The general limits of 7 daily, 21 in possession. Restrictions within the season of 1 pintail daily, 3 in the possession. Hen mallards and Mexican ducks, 2 hen mallards or Mexican ducks daily, 6 in possession. Redhead ducks, 2 daily, 6 in possession, and canvasback, 2 daily, 6 in possession. And with that, those dates throughout are the same as would be with the coot season, the coots and gallinules, snipe, that was on page 4. On page 5, Canada and cackling geese and brant, and white-fronted geese. And on page 7, the falconry seasons. Those dates would be the same for all of those, including the change for the northeast zone of making the ending date January 20th.
All right, any questions for Russell specific to the ducks and mergansers, coots and gallinules, snipe, Canadian cackling geese and brant, white-fronted geese, and falconry seasons for migratory game birds?
Not a question, just wanted to say thank you. Heard from a bunch of waterfowl guys that reviewed this, and they were really impressed with the work put into it, and happy with the proposal, so thanks.
Additional commission questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, any cab comment in Vegas? Seeing none, any cab comment on Zoom? No. Any public comment in Vegas? Public comment on Zoom? No? All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll take a swing at it. So I'll make a motion to approve Commission Regulation 24-10 for the 2024-2025 seasons as presented, specific for ducks and mergansers, coots and gallinules, snipe, Canada and cackling geese and brant, white-fronted geese, and falconry seasons for migratory game birds as presented with the noted change for the northeast zone, the change for the January 15, 2025 to be January 20th, 2025.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Could I apologize, was SCOP included in that?
No.
Was not included.
Russell, no. Russell, that'll be different. All right. Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Russell Wilson for the record to continue. So the next season to address is the SCOP season. The reason why it's held out from the rest of the ducks is because the SCOP are currently under a moderate season package, and all other ducks and waterfowl are under a liberal season package. So it has a shorter season. It's only allowed 86 days as opposed to 107 for the other waterfowl. So for the SCOP and lesser and greater SCOP seasons, the Northeast Zone dates of September 28th of 2024 through December 3rd of 2024, and December 14th of 2024 through January 1st of 2025. The Northwest Zone, October 31st of 2024 through January 6th of 2025, and January 9th of 2025 through January 26th of 2025. The South Zone, except the Moapa Valley, November 2nd of 2024 through January 26th of 2025. Then within the South Zone, the Moapa Valley to the confluence of the Muddy and Virgin Rivers, November 2nd of 2024 through January 26th of 2025, with limits of 2 daily and 6 in possession.
All right. Any questions for Russell on SCOP from the commission? Okay, seeing none, any cab comment in Las Vegas? Seeing none, any cab comment on Zoom? Okay, public comment in Vegas? Public comment on Zoom? All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner McNinch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion to approve that portion of CR 24-10, 2024-2025 regulation specific to lesser and greater SCOP as presented.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent.
Mr. Chair, on special youth waterfowl hunts, the Northeast Zone hunt dates of September 21st and 22nd of 2024. For the Northwest Zone, hunt dates of September 28th, 2024 and February 8th of 2025. For the South Zone, including all portions of the South Zone, February 8th and 9th of 2025, and then within the Moapa Valley portion of the Overton Wildlife Management Area, a date of October 19th of 2024. And this hunt would be open to all open waterfowl species, as well as swan, provided the youth has a permit in their possession with the same limits, singly and in the aggregate for all species. It's open to all hunters 17 years of age or younger. Youth hunters 16 years of age and older must possess a federal duck stamp. Youth must be accompanied by an adult who is at least 18 years of age. And I'm reading this portion because Nevada law doesn't require that. That's a federal requirement on that. And then adults are not allowed to hunt during the season, and it's open to non-residents.
All right, any questions for Russell specific to special youth waterfowl hunt? All right, seeing none, any cab comment in Vegas? Seeing none, any cab comment on Zoom? Any public comment in Vegas? Public comment on Zoom? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there's no other discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion for approval of Commission Regulation 24-10, migratory game bird seasons for the 2024-2025 seasons specific to special youth waterfowl hunt as presented.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent.
Mr. Chair, going on to Snow and Ross's geese. The Northeast Zone dates of September 28th, 2024 through December 3rd of 2024, December 14th of 2024, and again, there's a change here on the date of January 20th of 2025 rather than the 15th. In the Northwest Zone, November 2nd of 2024 through January 6th of 2025, January 9th of 2025 through January 26th of 2025, and February 20th of 2025 through March 9th of 2025. Within the South Zone, October 12th of 2024 through October 20th of 2024, and October 23rd of 2024 through January 26th of 2025. The South Zone, the Moapa Valley to the confluence of the Muddy and Virgin Rivers, October 26th of 2024 through January 26th of 2025. Limits of 20 daily, 60 in possession. On the special regulations at the bottom, the very last special regulation, the last line in parentheses, the 3-shot shell capacity remains in effect on open Nevada wildlife management areas. With the regulation the commission just passed, that sentence can be scratched and removed from this regulation if it's your desire. And then I also know that there's some cab interest in changing one of these seasons. So I have those dates if you'd like to hear from the cabs first, or if I can present those if you'd rather.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and go over the cabs proposed.
The Eureka County proposed that the Northeast Zone have a change to include the late snow goose and Ross goose hunt. So those dates would then, the first set of dates would remain the same, September 28th of 2024 through December 3rd of 2024. The second segment would become December 14th of 2024 through January 4th of 2025. And then adding the late hunt dates, which would be February 22nd of 2025 through March 9th of 2025.
All right, any commission questions or comments in regards to Snow and Ross's geese? Commissioner McNinch.
I'm just curious, what was the reasoning? I don't remember I don't remember reading that.
For the change?
Yeah, their proposed change.
They would like to take advantage of that late hunt that goes February into March. They felt like that they had enough of a snow goose resource at that time of the year that it would be something they wanted to participate in.
Additional commission questions or comments? All right, Seeing none, any cab comment in Las Vegas? Any cab comment on Zoom?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Jim Evans called me from over in Eureka and asked what our position was with regards to that late season. We did not have that discussion during our cab meeting. Mike, there really isn't a concern. We think that the proposed late season would be okay for the northeast zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. Any additional cab comment on Zoom? None. Okay. Any public comment in Las Vegas? Public comment on Zoom? All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Quiet. Commissioner Keel.
Yeah, maybe Russell, I got a quick question. Thank you, Chairman. Does that open up hunters, like with a potential conflict? I mean, how well are we going to spell out that change? It just seems a little bit bizarre that it's not consistent with all the other bird seasons in that area. Like if they're out goose hunting on, if we make this change on January, no, I missed the middle date. The 6th or whatever it was, where you would generally assume that it was open through January 20th on all the other seasons. I mean, I just want to make it sure that all the hunters are aware that there is a potential gap and, you know, we've got this later season and, you know, not to put them in a situation where if they harvest a snow or a Ross goose that unintentionally, you know, they're opening themselves up for a violation.
Thank you, Commissioner Keel, for the question. As you're aware, waterfowl seasons are complex, and this is an added complexity. We've had this late season hunt for a number of years. When it initially started within the state, it was in all 3 zones, and then there seemed to be little participation. So the department pulled this back in and have just been running it the last 7 or 8 years just in the northwest zone with the interest. There's nothing prohibitive about that occurring there, but there has been the occasional harvest of a snow goose out of season because people aren't paying close enough attention to the complexity of the regulations. So it is a possibility, and it has happened in the recent past.
Sure. And the other side of that is you might have a snow goose flying around with a flock of Canada geese, you know, in March, and they're trying to pluck that, you know. I mean, I guess that could be an issue too, you know, with the different seasons.
I've never heard of it going the other way where a Canada goose was harvested during that late snow goose hunt, but it is a potential possibility also. It's like, I suppose with all hunting, being aware of your target and only shooting when it's safe to shoot that's one of the first things we learn in hunter education.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, this last year there, you know, on the bird counts out in Fallon, I mean, there were a couple of blue geese out there. So, I mean, you're starting to kind of, you know, if people really don't know, I mean, they stand out, but, you know, you start getting a blue mixed in once in a while or something. And I don't know, I'm kind of thinking the same way you are that I don't know. I get it, opportunity, but.
Additional commission questions or comments or a motion?
So is everybody on board with the extended, okay, so I'll make a motion. I'll roll with it. Be careful, don't get in trouble. I'll make a motion to approve CR 24-10, 2024-2025 seasons bag limits and special regulations for migratory game birds specific to snow and Ross's geese as presented with the noted change for the northeast zone to be September 28th, 2024 through December 3rd, 2024, December 14, 2024 through January 4th, 2025, and February 22nd, 2025 through March 9, 2025. Did I get that?
And then, real quick, Commissioner McNitch, Russell, did you ask that we strike the three-shot cell?
Yes, with the, and then striking the language with the regards to the three-shot, yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent.
Mr. Chair, we're getting close. Thank you for staying with me. So on page 8 of the regulation under swans, with proposed dates of October 12th of 2024 through January 6th of 2025, January 9th of 2025 through January 26th of 2025, and that is in Churchill, Lyon, and Pershing counties only. And then there's a change to the regulation that we're asking for this year, and that's to increase the total permit quota from 650 total permits to 750 total permits.
All right, any questions for Russell specific to Swan? And I'll just ask the question, Russell, what the justification by the increase in permits?
The swan populations have increased fairly substantially over the last 40 or 50 years. The 650 permits were allocated to the department in 1982. And with the increase of the population, there's more opportunity there. During the last couple of years, as the department has returned back to a draw for the swan permits, the swan applications are increasing each year, and they're greatly exceeding the number of permits that we had. And because the opportunity presented itself, and because of the interest, the combination of those two things, we decided that an increase would help more people obtain a permit, excuse me.
Thank you. Vice Chair Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along those lines, I'm just curious if, with the increase in quota, to your point of the increased population, are you seeing that other states are also increasing quotas where they have particular quotas?
Nevada is the only state that asked for an increase. This, of course, all goes through the flyway system and then back up through the Service Regulation Committee with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for approval, which was obtained. But no other state asked for an increase. They all have that opportunity. The states that have this swan permit, the Montana has 500 total permits. Idaho recently added a hunt, and they have 50 permits. Utah had an increase about 5 years ago. That was a restoration of permits they had lost, but they went from 2,000 permits to 2,750 about 5 years ago, at which time Nevada didn't ask for an increase when they were asking for theirs. And just, again, more opportunity, and as demand increases and the number of swans increases.
Any additional questions or comments for Russell? Seeing none, any cab comment in Vegas? Any cab comment on Zoom? Any public comment in Vegas? Public comment on Zoom? All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Young.
If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to approve CR 24-10, 2024 to 2025 season pack limits special regulation for migratory birds as it relates to swans.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent.
The last portion of this regulation is public hunting limited on wildlife management areas and designated state lands. There are no changes from last year on this portion of the regulation to bring it to the attention of the commission.
All right, any questions for Russell on the public hunting limited to wildlife management areas and designated state lands. Seeing none, any cab comment? Cab comment on Zoom? Public comment? Public comment on Zoom. All right, we get back to the commission. Vice Chair Rogers?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there's no more discussion, I'll go ahead and make a motion for approval on Commission Regulation 24-10 for the 2024-2025 seasons for migratory bird seasons as it specifically relates to public hunting limited on wildlife management areas and designated state lands as presented.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Russell. That's a lot, and I know it is complex, and I think you do an outstanding job at it every year. All right, with that, we'll go to agenda item number 20B, Commission Regulation 2304, Amendment 3, 2023-2024 and 2024 through 2025 big game seasons. Game Division Administrator Sean Espinoza. The Commission will consider and may take action to approve an amendment to the 2024-2025 hunting seasons and dates.
Good morning, Chairman Cavilla and members of the Commission. Sean Espinoza, Game Division Administrator for the record. So this is CR 23-04, proposed amendment number 3, and sorry for not catching this one during amendment number 2. Sort of slipped through our fingers, but the reason for this change is that the late any legal weapon antlered hunt for 104, 108, and 121 for elk is November 21st through December 4th, so there would have been potential overlap the way it's written. So the December 5th through January 1st season, as proposed, would bring 104, 108, and 121 antlerless hunt back in line with other late season antlerless elk hunts in other hunt units or unit groups.
All right. Any questions for Sean specific to the resident elk antlerless any legal weapon hunt 4181? Okay, seeing none, any cab comment? Cab comment on Zoom? Okay, public comment Vegas? Public comment on Zoom? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Young.
If there's no more discussion, I'll move to approve CR 23-04, proposed amendment number 3 to the 2023, 2024, and 2024, 2025 big game hunting seasons.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously with Commissioner Wise absent. All right, agenda item number 21, future commission meetings and commission committee assignments for possible action. Secretary Janae and Chairman Cavilla. The next commission meeting was scheduled for May 3rd and 4th, 2024 in Reno. The commission will review and discuss potential agenda items for that meeting. The commission may change a date, time, and meeting location at this time. The chairman may designate and adjust committee assignments and add or dissolve committees as necessary at this time. Any anticipated committee meetings that may occur prior to the next commission meeting may be discussed. So go to Secretary Janae.
Thank you. So looking at the next meeting, I'm sure everybody's aware, quotas will be on the next meeting. Predator management plan will be back. Wildlife heritage project proposals are on the agenda. I'm also looking at the tag deferral regulation coming back, lifetime waiting, junior tag, map review, and possibly policy 12 coming out of the committees. And then as far as committees, right now what I have is the Heritage Committee meeting before that commission meeting. That's what I have currently. If you have others, please let me know.
No, I've got about the same. And then obviously if something changes, we'll make that adjustment with the agenda. In regards to committee assignments, we've got a couple items going there. On the legislative committee, We're going to see Lydia Teal on that committee as a public representative. On the Finance Committee, we are going to add Commissioner Booth, and then Commissioner Wise. She wanted to be absent today, so that's what she's going to end up on there. It's going to be a surprise. No. And then, you know, after all the discussion yesterday on the calling contest item, and then Commissioner McNinch and Commissioner Walter both volunteered for some sort of public outreach. So what I'm going to do on that is we're going to form a new committee. We're going to call it the Contest Committee. And my plan is to sit Commissioner McNinch, Commissioner Walter, and Commissioner Booth on that committee. And my hope there is that we do get both sides we discussed yesterday. Hopefully we can get both sides at that committee and just, I guess, maybe see where they're at and see if we do have any movement off of either end of the spectrum there. So that'll be a new committee. And then I guess I'll ask Commissioner McNinch to chair that one. All right?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. We'll get things moving, so.
And I guess this is an action item, so I guess, is there any further discussion from the commission?
I'd make a suggestion that maybe we have a CAB member on that contest committee. I don't care who it's going to be, but I'd like to involve them.
Okay, and then, so maybe I'll discuss that with Commissioner McNinch, and I need to find a CAB member that's willing to do it too, so I won't make that decision today, but any additional commission questions or comments? All right, seeing none, this is an action item, so any CAB comment? Any CAB comment on Zoom?
Mr. Chairman, Jim Cooney in Elko. One thing I'd mentioned about the wolves, I'm wondering if it'd be possible to have a update from the department at our next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. Any additional CAB comment? All right, any public comment? Any public comment on Zoom? All right, with that, we'll close agenda item number 21. We'll go to agenda item number 22, public comment period. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. No action can be taken by the commission at this time. Any item requiring commission action may be scheduled on a future commission agenda. Persons making comment are asked to begin by stating their name for the record. Any public comment in Las Vegas?
Paul Dixon speaking on behalf of myself here. I'd like to thank Aaron Wood, from the biologist from the south here, for presenting Cody Schroeder's information to our CAB. I'd like to also thank Russell Wolstenhume for staying for the entire meeting where we covered his wildlife stuff in about 15 minutes at the end. Both of them and NDOW support, as well as the law enforcement support of my meeting, are greatly appreciated, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Any additional public comment in Las Vegas? Okay. Any public comment on Zoom? All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see everybody in May.